Our first conversation this morning is going to cover a lot of these topics around open innovation and collaboration. We have three incredible speakers with us here this morning who are going to share their experiences in helping build their own companies and supporting other companies and startups in landing and expanding within their markets. We'll be talking from accessing new technologies everywhere from Israel and Tel Aviv to Tokyo, Japan, and of course in Vietnam, and looking at the nuances of approaching these markets and how we can collaborate with companies from these regions. So without further ado, it's a great pleasure I get to welcome to the stage Ed Frank, CEO at Axis Innovation, Jeffrey Char, founder and CEO at Sogo Energy, and Thang Nguyen, co-founder and CEO at InnoLab Asia. Woo! Thanks for joining us, guys. Stage is yours.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. It's really great to be here. We have really, truly very inspiring panelists today. So I'll introduce myself, Ed Frank, originally from the US, and for the last 20 years in Israel. I'm the CEO of a company that works very closely with large corporations such as Ford and Visa, IKEA, and others to help them implement startups. And we've been doing this for about 10 years. And today, our topic is really beyond the hype, tech for the greater good. So how do you work with large corporations and startups and work to kind of improve the world? So I'd like to just quote from Chris Schroeder, who wrote a book on startups. And he talked about the three types of startups. Startups that are either going to be a copycat, where there's a technology or business that's working somewhere else and they bring it into their new geography, or companies that solve a local problem, such as Delivery Hero. And then the third are companies that want to change the world. And I think that we've seen here, there are so many companies that want to change the world. From aquaculture yesterday, we had companies that are working to help improve reading, companies that are trying to help companies protect against cybersecurity. So I think when we look at the younger generation of people trying to make their mark on the world, you have to understand that working to try and bring new companies and new ideas that will help the social good is just so important. So thank you for joining us today. We have really two esteemed panelists. To my left, Jeffrey is the CEO of a company called J-Seeds out of Tokyo, who has had a long record of successes in finance and various exits, and is now working to help improve energy for people in Cambodia, which we'll hear about in a moment. Thank you, Jeffrey, for joining us. And Thang from Vietnam, who again is heading up an accelerator, which you hear about in a moment. And what's really inspiring about Thang is his work throughout his career, not necessarily in technology, but to encourage younger people to become more entrepreneurial. And Thang has actually sponsored more than 300 people from Vietnam to study overseas and understand how to build a successful business. So it's really my pleasure to welcome you. And he just arrived this morning on a long road from Bangkok to the airport on a bus and managed to pay. So I'd like to introduce Jeffrey and Thang. So Jeffrey, please introduce yourself.
Okay. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Jeff Char. I'm originally from the US, but I've spent most of my life in Japan. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started several companies and exited a few of them. And right now I'm running a company called Sogo Energy. We are providing irrigation to smallholder farmers in Cambodia.
Thang.
Good morning, everyone. Hope that we have the energetic morning. My name is Thang. I'm from Vietnam. For the last 13 years, I was lucky enough to engage with the big corporate, the startup, investor, government, and student in terms of the innovation, in terms of entrepreneurship, mentorship, and I was lucky enough to assist a few companies, but I still consider myself as a mentor and a learner. because I believe that is the lifelong journey, and I still want to explore it more, especially through this session.
Great, thank you very much. So I just, we did work for one of the world's largest cigarette companies. It was personally an issue. And then when we got further into those discussions, we realized that they had a problem in youth accessing these devices. And we actually worked with them to solve their problem to help identify biomarkers in voice for children so that if a child picks up the device, then it wouldn't work. So even though it might not be my ideal client, even when working with a company that might not be your ideal, there's still an opportunity to do something for the social good. So for us, it was quite important. Jeffrey, I just wanted to start off with you and ask your opinion. Is it okay to change the world and also make money? Or do you have to just do this as a volunteer?
I think it's completely okay to make money. In fact, if you don't make money, you can't keep doing it. So I actually believe it's a requirement. I look at a lot of organizations that are funded through NPOs or NGOs, and oftentimes their business models are completely reliant on donations. And typically, after they do a few projects, they run out of funding. So I don't particularly like that business model, and therefore I prefer to do it as a capitalist and try to make a profit so that we can stay in business and continue to provide the service.
Great, thank you. And Thang, tell us a little bit about the entrepreneurs that you've been mentoring, a little bit about their model, how they're incorporating the social good into their businesses.
Well, I think, first of all, I need to take a little bit about the background because, I've been around mostly the Southeast Asia. So just for the last 2 years, I have the chance to go to Europe, especially Switzerland and Germany. So I engage more with them for the last 2 years. But most of the time, I've been in Southeast Asia. And in Southeast Asia, you see, we have 650 million people with 11 countries with different culture, different regulatory complexity. And because of that, especially in Vietnam, so first thing for the entrepreneur, from the beginning, it's more on if they see an issue and they think that they can earn money from it, and they start with that. It's not really like they want to change the world, but it's more on, I can make money with this one. And they start with that. But then we are lucky enough that there's a group of entrepreneurs that come back from the advanced ecosystem, and they brought some new idea, and they share okay, you are already from 0 to 1, but from 1 to 10, how you gonna do it? And with that, they share with the local entrepreneur, and that's how the partnership happened. And we are lucky enough that we have a lot of people that interested in Vietnam come back to Vietnam and make the ecosystem go stronger thanks to the knowledge and the know-how that they bring back to Vietnam.
Yeah, I think that's true for so many different countries. I had the opportunity to talk to people here in Korea, Korean Americans, came back to Korea and felt that it was important to bring those knowledge back to where they came from. And the world is getting a lot smaller. Jeffrey, I'd like to maybe if you could explain a little bit about some of the entrepreneurs that are involved in the energy project and how you're seeing them right at the beginning and taking them, I guess, from 0 to 1, as Thang mentioned, and how do you get them to 3 or 5 or hopefully even 10?
Right now, what we're doing is actually trying to build an ecosystem. So the amount of impact that I can have as a single entrepreneur is limited. And so what we've done is we operate as an operating company in areas where we can't find anyone else solving a problem. But if there's someone already doing something, we would rather invest in that company and partner with them to build up the ecosystem together. So in the case of Cambodia in particular, what we noticed was that there are problems in terms of the amount of renewable energy that's available. But we can't go in and sell electricity because of regulations. However, we're able to build our own infrastructure and use the electricity ourselves. So we built solar-powered mini-grids. and we use that to power electric pumps and pump water, and we sell the water to the local farmers. There's a lot more that we could do, but again, we're not trying to do everything, so we've been partnering with drone companies, with satellite companies, with other companies that do AI or machine learning, and trying to partner to build up the ecosystem to support the local farmers. If there is anybody out there who's doing something, I'd love to talk to you. I think I've already talked to some of you. But yeah, that's our business model. It's to do things when nobody else is willing to do it. But if someone is already doing it, we'd rather partner.
Thang, I'd like to ask you about the accelerator.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to visit Vietnam, I guess around 7 years ago, and there wasn't a lot of entrepreneurial spirit. And
Yes.
I think that you had talked about your background being more in traditional businesses. Tell us a little bit about the entrepreneurs that are in the program and the accelerators. What types of businesses they have, and what direction are they looking at?
Well, then I have to share you a bit about the background of the entrepreneur from Vietnam. So we start from, let's say, from 2000 to 2006. At that time, there is actually no support from the government yet, and the ecosystem is really early. And most of the startup, they focus more on game. And this time, we don't have a lot of startup that coming with the strong background and diverse background yet. And from 2006 to 2014, those who work for the tech company, they think, okay, this is the good trend, and they see some of the product that they can copy from other country that called Me Too app, and that booming really well. And when they reach to domain to one of sector, well, they focus on the game again. But with this stage, the government pay attention to them because some of them are growing really well in the market. And at that time, Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi, there's a lot of meetup talking. And with this stage, it's quite interesting that, like from this stage, we saw that some tech partner from the the tech company, they join the startup ecosystem, and they make successful company. So from 2014 until now, the government say, hey, well, if this is something I should support. And they have the decision 844 that set up the National Startup Support Center, which help the startup entrepreneur doing more on the ecosystem and attract the talent from other country back to Vietnam. And that's how I share from the beginning. There's a partnership between those who experience and exit from the advanced ecosystem and come back to Vietnam. And thanks to that, we focus more on EdTech, FinTech, AgriTech. But in Vietnam, AgriTech, even we are the farming country. But in terms of finding the good quality EdTech, AgriTech is actually a big issue for us. It's not really easy, especially when you have to deal with the farmer. And the tech founder, most of them are young, and they speak the language of the young people. Look at the farming, and the farmer, they look at the young founder as like, wow, you didn't know, you didn't on the field, you didn't really do how to plant the rice. How can you tell me what to do with this? So that is really hard to persuade the farmer. But we start trying to have some of the program that we encourage the farmer to change the way that they do. So that's why what Mr. Jeffrey did, actually I really want to replicate that and bring that to Vietnam. And that is something that really great for the farmer to experience. Because for the farmer, what they see is that if I see in my own eye, I'm going to apply it. If I don't see the result, forget it.
Yeah, well, I will
I'm actually working with a Vietnamese company right now.
Cool.
And what we're doing in Cambodia is mostly on the supply side. So we're helping the farmer to grow more and lower costs and increase productivity. But at the end of the day, they still suck at selling. And so the company in Vietnam that I'm investing in, they work on supply chain. And they're very good at aggregating the buyer side and financing that. And once you have that side, you can influence the farmers because you're basically their customer. So by investing in Vietnam and through this company, we're actually able to connect it back to what we're doing in Cambodia because Cambodia is a big supply source for them for cashew nuts, for coffee, for pepper, and other things. So I think kind of building the ecosystems and connecting them is really important.
Yeah, look, I think what you described with a farmer is not just unique to farmers. We work with a lot of large companies like Ford, etc. And those companies are not so interested in innovating. And unless you find a specific person with a specific problem, those startups are not going anywhere. So when we work with large companies, we have two kinds of clients. We have those that are proactive, which we call a push strategy, where they're like, yeah, show us something new. And not that much happens. And then we have these other clients that are reactive, which are really a pull. It's like, well, we have this problem, like youth access, or we have a problem, we don't have a way to store energy. What do you have that can solve our problem? So I think it's the same problem, because people want to protect their jobs. They don't want to do anything that's going to rock the boat. So I think these same farmers are the same as these big companies. But maybe the sales cycle is a little shorter with a farmer. So I wanted to ask you something else. I think that we're more advanced in our careers than a lot of these entrepreneurs, and we spend more time looking at our history and our experience to say, well, this worked, this didn't work. But yet, you know, these entrepreneurs, they're looking forward, and they're looking at what's going to happen in 5 years and 10 years, and they're very excited about the future. Are you optimistic about the future and the entrepreneurs, or are you saying, well, 95% are going to fail, and I hope they get the skill sets in place, but I'm not sure about their business?
I think 95% of entrepreneurs fail in general, but I still recommend trying if you're interested. I'm optimistic. You know, I teach at IE Business School in Spain, and the students I have are always very enthusiastic and interested in solving problems. I encourage that. I think that's a great skill set. It's a great life goal to have. Just making money is not interesting. But if you're making money in order to continue doing what you're doing, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I love the people who take challenges and try to solve problems and make the world a better place.
Well, I think being an entrepreneur gave me a chance to accelerate my knowledge and network. At the same time, gave me a chance to test myself to the limit. And well, I have tried time in my life that I nearly went bankrupt. I'm not really bankrupt, but nearly bankrupt. And I've suffered a feeling that, well, when you went to the table, the very crowded table, and when you went there, no one really want to talk to you, and that table become empty because you are there. And when you make your way back, and people come to you, when you just stand there, people come to you, talk to you, and I experience that when I'm on the peak and I'm on the bottom. And that's actually give me the mindset that, well, that we're gonna have some time that we're gonna be on the top and on the bottom. What we should learn is how we upgrade ourselves and increase our capacity. Then we increase our chance. So I never imagined that for the last 2 years, I am on the board with the former Deputy Prime Minister of Germany. And you know, like as a Vietnamese who were talk 100% in Vietnam, and now I live a bit 2 months in other country, and I've been around in the region for the last 13 years. And being entrepreneur gave me that kind of chance and give me the wealth that I can manage, and I can have the freedom and free time to go around. And it's a great chance anyway. If you don't start it, well, you're gonna miss the opportunity.
When many of the startup ecosystems around the world look at Israel and they say, it's an amazing place, a startup nation, what happened, how did it start? And you actually have to go back about 25 years. And there was there were three things that kind of happened at the same time. There was a very large project with the US government to develop a jet fighter. And there were 3,000 engineers on that project. And the project was canceled. And 3,000 engineers were suddenly unemployed. And the government was very concerned about a brain drain and all these engineers leaving. At the same time, there was a wave of immigration from Russia, and a lot of engineers came from Russia, a lot, like 100,000. And at the same time, the government changed, and they started to move away from a socialist economy to a more capitalistic economy. And those factors encouraged the government, as you said, to do something. And suddenly, there were lots of entrepreneurs. And the people in Israel really come from all over the world, and they're always looking to solve problems and to tell you what you should be doing better than you know yourself. And that fueled the whole innovation cycle. And I think that it wasn't that the government planned it. It was a lot of things that kind of got aligned. And I think that a lot of the entrepreneurs who have been successful, of course, they look back and they say, well, we did this and we did that. But I think they kind of fell into it. And people who, in France, the largest driver for entrepreneurship is the unemployment office. Because in France, if you're unemployed, you have 3 years of salary, and that can finance your business. So what do you think is the motivator for entrepreneurs to get off of a traditional job and take a risk and do a business?
Not sure on the answer for that. That's way above my pay grade.
Well, you're about yourself. You were working for a large company, and you moved into entrepreneurship.
I was working as a lawyer in Silicon Valley, and my mother-in-law called and said that my father-in-law had terminal cancer. And we moved back to Japan, and instead of looking for a new job, I decided to start a company. I figured life is short. I'd been thinking about it up until then, but I was probably 33 at the time. And I thought, life is short. I better do what I want to do now. So I took the plunge.
How about you, Thang?
I think the mindset and vision change when we grow older and wiser. Because from the beginning, to be honest, after 2 years working for the government, and I wanted to join the private sector, and I just do it. To be honest, at that time, I didn't know what to do, and I saw the opportunity, and I think that the rate changed for me to earn money, and then I tried to persuade a senior finance consultant to help me to deliver that, and that's how I start my entrepreneur. And then through the time when I build a few successful company, people come to ask me, hey, how did you do it? Can you share with me? Can you support me? And that's how I become a mentor. And when I mentor for a few companies that they grow from 3 people until 200 people. And then they come to me and say again, wow, you did a great job. Can you mentor me? And that's how I get referral from around. And I say like, wow, mentorship is something that I should do it in a proper way. Then I study, I do research, and then I make it in the presentation to share with the people. And yeah, that's how I improve myself, and that's how I see, well, there's the opportunity in any aspect of our life. And that's how I can wake up daily, and I can ask myself, well, we have another day to start something to change the world.
Thank you very much. I know you've traveled a lot, and we discussed, how do you get going in the morning, and what brings you that energy? And I know that you didn't have a chance to have your tea this morning, so I brought you a special gift from Israel, which is tea for you. And,
thank you.
I want to know how you use tea to actually get yourself going in the morning and take that moment for meditation to take things slow.
Thank you. For your information, I'm about to open a new tea company. So that's why I really appreciate this. Well, I have a chance to be in Israel, and for me, I think it's a great time for me. I learned a lot. And that actually shaped in my mind.
And Jeffrey, who is a major chocoholic, who actually had very specific requirements, that he only likes chocolate with 70% cocoa to get him going in the morning. So I thought it would be a good way to start the day here. And there are a lot of problems in this world, which we know. I think that we look at the climate, we're looking at health, food, energy. What do you think is the most important decision for someone considering? How do they choose which of these problems to attack? It's a big question, but I think that people who are starting out, they can't change everything. So how could they do something small? I was getting coffee this morning, and they had a description of the coffee, and it's natural, it's grown, and it's fair trade. So what could someone do small to help one of these big problems?
I think the only way to solve big problems is starting small, actually. There's a saying, you can't boil the ocean. So I prefer to pick a very narrow segment, and I'm assuming other entrepreneurs are doing something similar, but typically focusing on something that they're really interested in. In my case, usually there are problems that I just can't leave alone, and I don't see anyone else doing it, so then I figure, okay, what the hell, I'll do it. But if you start small, then you're able to get traction, hopefully. And then from there, you can build up and kind of broaden your horizons. But starting small is super important. What you start on is really up to you, wherever your interests are. Ideally, it's something you know a little bit about or that you're very curious about. And again, ideally, it's an area where you've found a problem that you've fallen in love with and you can't leave alone.
How about you, Thang? What do you think?
I have a time that I really hesitant about what I'm doing, and I found on the website waitbutwhy.com. There's a guy. I think he's genius in a way that he put our lifespan in weeks and in 90 years. So when I bring that in the A4 paper and I color the black color on all the weeks that I already spent my life, and I see that there's only a few space for my next year, next like 40 or 50 years. I was shocked. And then I found like, okay, if I only have this short life in the next few 40 or 50 years, what am I gonna do? Because my energy is not the same energy that I used to have.
Yeah.
So I talk a lot with my friend and my partner. So I'm gonna spend majority of my time gonna be on education. So whatever related to education, I'm gonna do it. So now, for your information, I have the kindergarten. So we are about to open the primary school soon, then secondary school and high school. Hopefully, when I retire, I can have the university. But that is the plan. And now we just have the kindergarten to start with. And I don't know how I can make it, but I already invest in that. And then we have children, and we test the model, and the children are really happy now. I'm not sure that the future gonna go with that, to be honest. Even like we test and we learn a lot. I'm not really sure. But for me, education is the foundation to do everything. In Vietnam, we are still the developing country. So education is the right way for us to upskill ourselves. And that's also the right change for me and for the next generation to be on the global stage. That's why I think.
I think one of the most important lessons you can learn in life is how do you move on from failure and have a lot of patience. And I read recently that Warren Buffett made most of his billions after he was 80, which is pretty unbelievable. And he's giving away the money anyway, so it's okay. And the founders of Uber had a monumental failure. So how do you move on? You know, you said you came close to bankruptcy, and you said, look, I'm ready to give up being an entrepreneur. How do you make that switch and say, look, I had a failure, but I'm still motivated?
Well, when I found out that I lost all the money and I'm in a big debt, I came back to my mom. I came back to my parent house, and I talked to my mom. I shared the situation, and she looked at me in the eyes. She laughing. You are my son. You have the capacity to overcome all the obstacles in the past. This is just one of the rock that you need to walk over. And I'm like, she are not really serious and said, because I expect that she's gonna scowl at me, she's gonna yell at me because I'm stupid, do this and do that. But with her calmness, make me realize that, well, it's not a big deal. It's actually just one obstacle that I need to overcome. And, well, I started to work just in, within 1 or 2 weeks later. And, well, when you really want to do something, well, I don't know. I'm the lucky guy. I think so, because then I found an opportunity in import and export management. And, well, we earn a lot of money from that.
Great. How about you, Jeffrey? You came to Japan. You had nothing. You left your job and moved on.
I don't know. I don't think failure is that big a deal. It's obviously not something you want, but on the other hand, you know, it helps you figure out what to do and what not to do. I have a sister who's a surgeon, and if she makes a mistake, somebody dies. I don't think anyone will die if I make a mistake. So I've got it easy. Yeah.
That's a good attitude. I think we're really thank you for sharing your life histories and for very inspiring words. And I think that I'm expecting to see a lot of great things from both of you going forward. And I think it's important that the entrepreneurs here realize that it takes time, it takes focus, but you have to always try and overcome your mental blocks. So thank you very much for joining, and it's a pleasure meeting you guys.
Thank you
Thank
for the
you.
chocolate.
My first time to have a gift on the panel.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.